while in our parents' home. Okay?
That means you.
Yes, that's you. What are some practical habits
Okay.
other than taking out the trash and such?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, we got that one down. But what are some practical
Well,
habits?
I don't know if I'd say you have that one down, but you're working on it.
Yeah. Okay.
Questions for Dad. Hey, Dad.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, Dad.
Hey,
Why don't you...
Hey, Dad.
Hey, kids.
Hey, Dad.
Why don't you introduce yourself? Levi, your name, and tell everybody you're 17.
Okay. I'm Levi McPherson.
Okay?
And I'm 17.
That's awesome.
This is my dad. Hey, Dad.
This is my son. He's a boy.
Correct.
This is my dad. He's a man.
A young man. He's a young man.
There you go.
A budding young man. LMA, just tell him that you're 19.
My name is LMA, and I am 19, and this is also my father.
Outstanding. So I thought today, and this might become a longer podcast idea later. We've had this Hey Dad podcast idea for a while, where we always get into great conversations because we have always pushed you guys, challenged you guys, encouraged you guys to ask questions. You guys conversely have put us to the test with your questions, and you've become quite curious. And so right out of the gate, I would encourage parents, one of the ways to cultivate kids who think well is to encourage them to ask good questions and model that by asking good questions yourself as a parent and being naturally curious. And so your mom and I have been very intentional about helping you learn how to ask good questions. So Levi, we'd go on mountain bike rides on Saturdays, and what do we call them?
Mountain bike dialogues.
Mountain bike dialogues, MBDs. And so you had to bring 2 or 3 questions every Saturday, and they could be fun, goofy. It could be about girls, sex, work, theology, anything, friends, whatever. And then it wasn't so much that those particular questions changed your life, but it built a habit into our relationship. How should I say it? Not that any one answer I gave changed your life, but it built into the framework of our relationship the habit of asking questions and answering questions. And what I wanted to help get you guys in the rhythm of was learning, because so many people float through life and they're not asking questions, and they're around really interesting people, and they're around really smart and intelligent people, and there's so much in the world to explore and discover and learn. And kind of this flat screen, one-dimensional world that we built for kids is they just kind of get sucked into the screen, and they stop looking around and seeing all the wonder within an arm's length of their life. And so we knew that you were going to be around. You're yawning. Are you tired?
Yeah.
You've been out working all day, haven't you? He's been working out in the sun all day, working on his sister's house. Yeah.
Yep.
But we knew that you guys would be going out into the world, and you're going to be around interesting people, wonderful people, smart people, talented people, intelligent people, and we wanted you there absorbing, learning as well. We wanted you to learn how to think, how to process, and that comes by asking questions. And oftentimes, people are internally asking questions, but they never externalize that question. And so then the only person who answers that question is who?
Themselves.
And so they're always up in their head having conversations with themselves, and they never externalize that conversation. So we've taught you guys to journal. And so that's one way you externalize that conversation with the Lord. What am I feeling? Well, I'm not quite sure. Start journaling. Oh, now it's coming. I'm feeling tired, frustrated, overwhelmed, anxious, whatever it is. And that's how you talk to the Lord. Same thing with people. One of my pet peeves is I've observed children, and they talk too much. They listen too little. They're around adults, and rather than getting wisdom from those adults, they're either ignoring those adults or hounding those adults, or just ignoring those adults. And so we wanted to cultivate in you that kind of natural born rhythm of curiosity. And so I've watched it in your guys' life, and you get around adults and you're just asking them questions. And I've had adults tell me, your kids are so curious. They ask such great questions. Such great questions. Such great questions. And that's not by accident. That's something that was cultivated intentionally in you guys. And so the thought was, we're just doing this one off here. We're getting ready to go on a trip together to travel, see some friends, and do some ministry. LMA, you're getting ready to kick off your freshman year at college at Vector Academy. Levi, you're getting ready to move out. It's your senior year, and you're remodeling your uncle's apartment over his garage. You're going to move in there to spend your senior year living on your own. LMA, your brother's building a house for you currently that you're going to move into. So you guys are both on the cusp of really differentiating out on your own. You as a freshman, you as a senior, freshman in college, senior in high school. And so your mom and I, well, first of all, we're very proud of you guys. And we can hardly wait. I mean, we're going to really miss you.
Yes.
Totally.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. No, we're, it's a new season.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, this is going to be weird. They're not going to be here every night. And that's part of the transition. So we've had a lot of good conversations. Might bring Gideon in to a podcast to talk through the conversation we had with him the night when we talked through should you move out or not, because he'd be losing his 12-year roommate, and lots of good stuff. So maybe this will turn to something, maybe it won't. Maybe it'll become the Hey Dad podcast. But let's start. And I asked you guys, why don't you bring some of the questions that you've asked me in the past, or you have right now. I'll shoot from the hip cold turkey. I'll ask you guys questions, and we'll just have a conversation, see where it goes.
I love it.
Sound good?
Yep.
Okay, who wants to go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. My first question for you is, like we already mentioned, I'm getting ready to move out. Freshman year in college. So what are the things that I can do practically to prepare for that?
Yeah. Oh, man, that's a really good question. Well, the first thing I would say is, and this is for you in particular, but most everybody, you need to think through your schedule and your calendar. When are you going to get up? When are you going to go to bed? What's your school schedule like? Your work schedule like? And be intentional about handling your calendar. One of the challenges of transitioning out of your home, or your parents' home, is they had a schedule for you. And as you guys have been getting older, you guys have been making more decisions for your schedule. You know, Levi, you can drive. LMA, you're working on driving, which is super cool. We'll do another episode maybe how you're doing the hand controls. Pretty cool. But Levi's had a little more independence because he can drive, and you're getting that more independence because you can get your driver's license now, your ADA driver's license, or what do they call it? ADA?
Assistant, hand controls.
Hand control driver's license. Super cool.
Yeah.
Bought her own car, found the place in Seattle to get these hand controls mounted so she can drive it with her hands. So you haven't experienced as much independence as Levi has yet, but a big part of that is going to be mom and dad aren't setting your schedule anymore. They're not telling you when to go to bed. They're not telling you when to get up. They're not reminding you if you're going to be late for something. So getting a handle on your calendar. Now, both you guys have calendars because we've worked with those, but sitting down and on a Sunday night looking at your week and just kind of getting a handle on it. Because one of the common mistakes I think of young people can be they overcommit themselves. It's just, so many shiny things and so many friends and freedom, independence, and pretty soon they're not getting home till super late, and they got to be up at work in the morning, so they're tired at work, and they just get into a bad habit and a bad rhythm of time management. So the first thing I would say is manage your time well. Get a calendar, work from week to week, work from day to day. One of the things I do, you don't know this, but before I go to bed at night, I look at my calendar for the next day. What do I got to do? Okay, and if I get up at this time, okay, so I'm not waking up at square one. I get a running start the night before. Your mind's thinking about it as you're sleeping. So get ahead of your week on a Sunday night, work on your calendar, manage your calendar well. Second thing I would encourage you to be thinking about is who you're spending time with. You're going to be spending more time away from home, away from mom and dad. Now, we have a lot of family dinners together. That's going to change. You're going to be doing dinner on your own, dinner with your friends. I would really strongly encourage you, as well as anyone stepping out on their own, to consider who you're spending time with. It's very cliche, but it's very true. Show me your friends. I'll show you your future. You are a conglomeration of the 5 people you're around the most. And so if you choose foolish friends, you'll become a foolish person. And so we've talked about this a lot, but my encouragement and our encouragement has always been get around the kind of people you want to become like yourself. And then there's to understand you have different relationships with different people. So some people are folks that you're ministering to and reaching out to. Some folks are folks that you're working with at a job. You keep yawning. Am I boring you, son?
No, seriously.
Okay, that's great.
Very exciting.
Yes, it is. So there's different tiers. So some folks you're reaching out to, some folks you're maybe working with because you got a job. And then there's the next rung in are folks you're doing community with, like maybe at the Stitch or a college group or, all the folks doing Vector Academy with you. There's 40, 50 students
Something
there.
like that.
A lot.
And then the next ring in is like those close friends. So
Yeah.
not everyone is, you don't relate to everyone the same, which means not everyone gets the same amount of access to you and not everyone gets the same amount of influence over you. So some people you're reaching out to, some people you're working alongside with, some people you're doing community together with, and then some people you're being vulnerable with. And so understanding those layers is important so that you're not letting the wrong people in. Because if you spend time with fools, you'll become a fool, right? walking with the wise, you become wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm. Proverbs, 19, whatever.
Yeah.
So learn how to manage your schedule. Be very selective and careful with the kind of people you're putting yourself around.
Yep.
And then lastly, you guys do this so well, but just regularly find older people that you can learn from. So like LMA, I came out this morning for breakfast and you had a young lady in our home who's a godly single gal in her 20s.
Yep.
And you were peppering her with questions. And I thought, I've heard LMA ask mom these questions and me these questions. And so I pulled your mom aside. I was like, why is LMA asking her those questions? And she said, because LMA has a set of questions she put together to go ask a bunch of godly women in her life to get different ideas for how they do their Bible reading and their personal devotions. And I was like, oh, that's really smart of her. It was so funny because I was like, at first I was like kind of embarrassed. I was like, the pastor's daughter doesn't know how to do her devotions? Like, what's going on here? And then when mom told me your strategy, I was like, oh,
No,
that's my girl. Pretty
I
wise.
promise. Yeah,
So
I do read my Bible.
Learn how to manage your time.
Yeah.
Be intentional with the community of people you put yourself around, especially Christian community, and then make it a habit to get counsel from wiser older people.
That's good.
There you go. Great question.
Great, yeah.
Any thoughts about that or follow-up questions, or does that make sense?
No, yeah, just the things that we've talked about, in our own home, like just, again, just affirming all those ideas and really excited. I'm excited for this new chapter. I'm excited for this new transition. It's going to be fun. It's going to be new. It's going to be something I've never ever done before. So, really just excited, and thank you for all the years and wisdom. So.
Yes, you're welcome, and I will see you again. So you can.
I know, it's like we're not leaving. We're not partying forever.
Yeah. Goodbye. I love you. Thanks, Dad. Invite us to the wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it just has set me up for such success that I'm really grateful for.
Well, we're pretty stinking proud of you, babe. Excited to see what happens. Okay, another question.
Okay, so next question. So I'm going into my senior year of high school, right?
Okay. Yes, you are.
Starting to move. Yes, it's valid.
Correct.
Starting to move out. So my question is, and we've talked about this a lot, but set up in an actual question. As a young man moving into a senior year of high school who wants to be married someday, what are some things I should be focusing on, especially in regards to pursuit of marriage in general, etc.?
Oh man, that's a great question. Well, we talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
One of the things, the errors that I think parents make is there's a twofold error. So like we've been very aggressive in talking about this, you and I, and preparing for it, but we haven't been aggressive in taking steps towards it yet because you're still in preparation mode. Right. The double error is you don't talk about it aggressively with your children, so they're not prepared for it, and you let them start dating in an age when they're not prepared to get married anyways. Yeah. So it's like this twofold error of like we don't really think about it, and they're doing it. And so when I tell parents, does that make sense?
No,
it's like,
no, not at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense?
No, it's weird.
Oh, I see. What I said makes sense.
But you said doesn't make sense. How you said it made sense, but what you said didn't make sense. How about that?
How about no? What I said makes sense. What parents do don't make sense.
There it is.
What you said parents do doesn't make sense.
There it is. There it is.
Okay. Wow. We'll get there.
Yes.
So when I tell parents, and I gotta clarify this sometimes, when I tell parents like, hey, like your kids need to get married, like let's get on the stick. Yeah. Sometimes that translates to like, oh, I told my 14-year-old boy to go out and chase a girl down. Like, no, bro, that's not what I meant. Like, knock that off. And so when I'm pushing parents, what I'm pushing them to do is I'm pushing them to prepare their kids for marriage. Yep. That doesn't mean to shove them into the dating pool of which they're wildly unprepared to survive in. Yep. Right. And so the double error is we don't really talk about it, and they're dating. We talk about it all the time. Right. But we're waiting until you're in that you find that gal. And so we've talked about a number of things. One, learn to be a good observer. So identify what you're looking for, and then learn to observe that in other ladies. And so oftentimes boys aren't really thinking with their mind and heart; they're thinking with their hormones and their emotions, and that can cloud their vision. And so we've worked through the exercise of what kind of woman am I looking for, the character qualities I'm looking for, things that might seem shallow but aren't really important. Like I want to like how she laughs. I mean, no one wants to marry like cackling camel. It's like, my gosh. physical attraction is important.
Yep.
It's not. You shouldn't be like, well, she reads her Bible, so I guess I'll just like gut it out. No, you should be physically attracted to her. You know, you like the idea of being with her and being around her. You like how she, her laugh. But then the substantive things of like loves Jesus, a woman of the Word. We've talked about, you have a called ministry on your life, I believe. So you're gonna need a woman that has that, like, can run with a man like that, who's serious about Jesus, not just like, oh yeah, I go to church if there's nothing else going on, but like, no, she has her own relationship with Jesus. So you identify those things and then learn to observe. So we've been talking about girls for a number of years and talking about boys with LMA. And it's like, okay, observe those young men. And then the beauty of that is, as you've observed women, you can see them growing. Or some girls are like, I'm not that interested. And then over time, like, wow, they have deep character. Other women, there's been an immediate like, oh, I'm interested. And then over time, you're like, oh, what I've seen is her character being exposed, and it's not as pretty. The inner beauty that the Bible talks about isn't there. She's got the outer beauty matched or mastered, but not the inner beauty. So learn to be an observer, know what you're looking for, and then, and this is what I've been pushing you the most of, look at your list and ask yourself, am I the kind of man who would attract this kind of woman? And that's the test. Is when you identify the kind of woman, like oftentimes I look at your list and I think like, that's his mom. Like you're looking for Sharon 2.0 because your mom's a noble woman and she's a woman of honorable character. And so rightfully so, not just like your mom, but a woman in your mom's class.
Totally.
Well, what's really fun then that we've talked about is, okay, Levi, that's great. What kind of man do you got to be to attract this kind of woman? And what kind of man is this kind of woman looking for? And then now we're into your category, because oftentimes I think the error that is made sometimes in the whole like dating scene is I'm just looking out at at people. I'm not considering what God's doing in here. And so as we've made this list for who you're looking for, and as we've been intentional about observing others and having conversations, we've been just as intentional, if not more, about cultivating in you the kind of character a woman like that would be drawn to. And the same for you, LMA. Cultivating in you the kind of character that a man that you would be interested in would be attracted to. And so at this stage, 16, 17, where you're at, I think it is still more about becoming than pursuing. You want to be becoming someone that a kind of woman would want to pursue her. And we're very close approaching the phase where you could start pursuing if you want to, right? So know what you're looking for, practice observing with, if kids are listening out there, talking with your dad, and then work hard at becoming the kind of man, a woman that you would want to marry would be attracted to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, really good.
Any other questions to that, or does that answer it?
No, that's really good.
I would have a question on the other side of that, just kind of backing, and we touched on it a little bit, but like, so as a young woman who's growing, and I'm not, of course, doing the one pursuing, but how could a young woman, myself included, present herself in a godly but feminine way? What can she do to present herself in a godly and feminine way to her brothers in Christ? What would that look like?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. I feel like your mom should be here to help with that. Maybe we'll have her on. Maybe we'll have mom back on. Hey, Dad and Mom.
Hey, Dad and Mom.
Podcast.
That's great. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about this a lot.
Yep.
And we believe that men should pursue and women should respond.
Right.
And so Levi is in the posture of offense.
Yep.
And then you were like, well, how can I be on the offense? And there is a reality that you're not quite in the same boat that Levi's in. Well, Levi's going to find a girl, pursue. You're more kind of like waiting.
Yep.
Well, in the meantime, waiting doesn't mean passive.
Yep.
So you're growing in the Lord. You're actively involved in a community of faith. You're becoming beautiful in the ways that matter in terms of character, virtue, nobility, not just makeup and hairstyles and clothes. And then I think being active in a community, serving, ministering, putting yourself in context that you would want to be in when you're married.
Yep.
So like if you don't want to spend your married life at a bar, then you probably shouldn't go there as a single person looking for a spouse, because that's the trajectory that person's on. If you want to spend your married life in the church, in community, serving, in ministry, building the kingdom, then that's where you should be. And fact, a really wise man once told me when I was your age, actually 19, I was down in Mexico on a mission trip. He said, my best dating advice would be to get on the front line of the kingdom, serve Jesus and others, and then look to your right or your left to see who's serving alongside you.
Yeah.
That's really good.
And that's a great way to think about it,
Yeah.
where you can be serving in the church, building the kingdom, actively engaged in the mission of God, and then look around. And what's cool is if, and we've talked about this before, part of the dating process is finding the tension between taking initiative and trusting the Lord.
Yep.
So we want to, especially in Levi's shoes as a dude, he needs to be aggressively, decisively taking initiative with a girl so that there's no ambiguity.
Ambiguity.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. There's no ambiguity. What's the word again?
Ambiguity.
Ambiguity.
Oh, I
Thank
said
you.
it wrong too.
Okay.
What did I say?
Yeah, you said it right. Ambiguity.
You did it
Ambiguity.
right,
Yeah.
So Levi's job is to make sure there's no ambiguity.
Yes.
Right.
We did it.
Yes.
Between him and the girl or her father as to his intention needs to be overt.
Right. Yep.
For the girl, there needs to be a willingness to respond. Now,
Sure.
now, obviously, there's a bit of caginess there where you're making it playing a little hard to get, but communicating clearly. We've all talked about Hallmark would be out of Christmas movie business
Yeah.
Yep.
if all the characters in their movies communicated,
Totally.
right? And so that's where the drama comes from. So being a woman who's willing to openly communicate while not making yourself too open. We talked about text messaging, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And so finding the tension between being intentional and trusting the providence of God.
Yep.
And I think there can be something beautiful for a woman who's like, Lord, I want to be married. I want to grow in my virtue and nobility and character. I'm going to have my eyes open. I'm going to be in the church and community, serving, looking around, and I'm going to trust you and your plan. Right now, women aren't getting married until much later, many because they can't find a godly man. That's why it's important to get into a good community, move if necessary. You can put yourself in contexts where there are more godly men to observe. And so if you're just like home with your cat watching reruns, griping to the Lord about not being married,
Right.
I can tell you why it's not happening.
Yep,
Okay,
totally.
you need to get out, get a haircut, maybe buy a new outfit, and get yourself out in some community where you can be seen.
Yep.
So good question.
That's really good.
Okay, let's go with this question here. This is a fun one. So, how about this? This is especially fun since it kind of applies to us a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, while in our parents' home, okay?
That means you.
Yes, that's you. What are some practical habits
Okay.
other than taking out the trash and such?
Okay.
Yes, we got that one down.
Yep.
But what are some practical
Well, I don't know
habits?
if I'd say you have that one down, but you're working on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Gideon's doing pretty good.
Gideon's pretty good at that. What are some practical habits that I can develop now as a young adult, still living in my parents' home,
Okay.
that will help me to success as an adult?
Help you to success.
Help me succeed as an adult. That's better.
Grammar's hard.
Or set you up for success.
Help,
That's what you
me
were
to, help me
trying
to succeed.
Yeah.
Help me be successful. Yeah.
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 Okay.
Any way you want it.
Help you to success.
Help you to success. That works
help you
too.
on the
Okay,
road
there we
to
go.
success.
Help me get to success.
Yes.
There it is. Yeah.
What are some practical habits you can develop as a young adult? In your
I mean,
parents'
first
home?
comes to mind cleaning your dad's guns
Oh, really? Oh, yes.
okay.
is a big deal.
Yes.
Cleaning your dad's bathroom,
Also, huge deal.
huge set to success.
Yeah.
I see. Yes.
Making your dad milkshakes.
They just keep
Boy, that's
Very, very practical.
yeah, absolutely very practical. I mean, those are transferable skills.
Yeah.
Are they
I
not?
think, yeah.
This is
I
me
don't
trying
disagree.
to. This is me trying to help you.
Very helpful.
Very.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Totally agree.
Gosh, that's a really good question. I mean, there's lots of, I feel like, kind of easy answers. We've always talked about our home being a gymnasium for relational strength and success. And so don't miss the opportunities that all the hard moments in our home provide you to grow. Because there's going to be things that annoy you or
Really?
we don't need to mention any.
No.
But like I think you guys will run your own homes very differently than we
Probably not that different.
than we do ours in some things,
Yeah.
you know. And that's going to be great, like because there are some things about Mom and I that I know, like bug you Levi or bug you LMA in funny ways. We laugh
Yeah.
about them,
Yeah.
but I've always worried that my that some of my shortcomings would cause you to have those shortcomings, but I found out that my shortcomings have caused you to have deep convictions about never having those shortcomings.
Hey,
so mission success.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
Oh,
The
Even in your
the-
weakness, you can teach us things.
The
Isn't that
beautiful
great?
thing is I got to mentor you in those strengths and never had to grow in them myself.
That's
Oh,
good.
now that's smart
Oh.
parenting right there.
Yeah, boy,
Boy, shit.
aced that one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, but I would say, and you guys do this really well, but to kids listening, like, don't miss the opportunities for relational growth that sometimes annoying things annoying things words are hard, end of the day. Annoying things in a family system can either cause you to get frustrated or they can cause you to grow in your patience and in your ability to give grace.
Yep.
And so one of the things I've appreciated about you guys and that you could always be growing in is just taking initiative to help. Because I'm carrying a heavy load, your mom's carrying a heavy load, and we don't need to tell you to do everything.
Yeah.
And whenever you take initiative to do things for the home, for us, for yourself, that's a huge blessing to your mom and I. It makes us feel like you're taking ownership of the health of our home. It makes us feel like you're taking ownership for being responsible for yourselves. And then we've talked about maturity is first learning how to take responsibility for yourself, and then doing so to such an extent that it opens up your capacity to take responsibility for other people.
Yeah.
And so you shouldn't leave our home still trying to figure out how to take responsibility for yourself.
Right.
You should have fully mastered getting yourself to bed, getting up in the morning, washing clothes, being on time, all those kinds of things, so that you're now able to help your younger siblings like you do, help mom like you do, help me like you do. Those things are huge. And so if kids are listening out there wondering how they can get on the fast track to independence, is learn how to be under authority well and be a dependent well. You want to be independent, you got to first learn how to be under those who are independent by serving them, helping them out, whatever. Yep. So don't think that I'll just grow up and be mature and learn how to be independent one day when I'm out on my own. You should be learning that now. Otherwise, it's going to be like jumping in a lake of freezing cold water. It's going to be a real shock to the system when no one's washing your clothes, remind you that your alarm went off 3 times and that kind of stuff. So, so disciplining yourself to take responsibility for yourself, and then taking the initiative without being asked to help lighten mom and dad's load. Like you guys do this all the time. You guys, and I mean, I'll take this moment to say you could do more.
Yeah, exactly.
but I appreciate what I see you guys trying to do. And kids are listening out there. Your mom and dad got a lot going on. Your dad's working a job. Maybe your mom's working a job, or she's homeschooling kids. Yep. They have more on their mind than you could possibly fathom. Bills to pay, credit card bills to pay off, loans to pay off, challenges at work, a business they're trying to run, worrying and stressing about whether or not they're ruining you as a young person or doing a good job. They're not just like popping chocolates and watching Netflix at night. And so any way that you could take initiative to take load off their shoulders makes them better parents, that makes your life better. Mm-hmm. So it's really the path of wisdom for you to say, what would make my life better if my parents were better? How could I help them be better? Help them carry their load. Take a load off their pack. Pray for them. Ask them how I could help. That's another great one. Kids who are in their homes, and most kids don't, because most kids are selfish. But one of the signs of maturation is that you stop thinking about yourself and you start thinking about others. Both of you are very good at this, and both your siblings are very good at this too. You are natural, and we all have our moments of selfishness. But you guys are doing good at working at thinking of others. You're taking others into consideration when you go to eat the last piece of bread, or you go to whatever it may be in the house. You're like, does someone else want this? Or how's Gideon? Has he eaten yet? And that signals to me that you're not just in a world thinking about yourself, you're also thinking about others. And that's a big thing. And so one thing that kids could do that most kids don't is they could ask their parents, how are you doing? And you're really good at this, LMA. And actually all you guys are good at this. How are you doing? How is your day? How could I be praying for you? Most kids are just receiving. But the key to happiness is learning how to give. Life is more than just taking. Life is about giving. The rich life, the good life, is the giving life, the generous life, the one where I'm offering something of substance where I'm at, not just taking things from people for what I want.
Right.
And so while you're in the home, growing towards adulthood, don't act like a child. Because if you're a child until the time you leave and then you leave, what happens is you'll take that childish behavior and you'll look for a new parent to replace it.
Right.
And oftentimes it happens with the government. And it's like, I'm still acting like a child. I want someone to wipe my nose and provide for my needs. Now I'm going to go to the government for that. And unfortunately, the government is only all too happy to step in and take that parental role, that kind of mothering, smothering role. And that's why you have record numbers of, unemployment is down right now. It's because we have record numbers of people not working.
Yeah.
That's not sustainable for a nation where less people are working to carry the load of those who aren't. And so in large part, that's happened because kids didn't grow up in their home. And then when they leave, they're still acting like a child, but they're out there in the world.
Right.
Well, guess who's got to care for them? The few of us, the decreasing percentage of us who are responsible as adults and working.
Yeah.
There's no happiness in irresponsibility. All the happiness, all the purpose, all of the vivid colors of life come when you're taking responsibility for yourself and others. So start pursuing that now in our home.
Yeah.
That's really good.
That's really good.
And like you said, it starts small. It
Yeah.
starts really small, like take out the trash, take out the garbage. And then over time, as you grow, as you're maturing, as you're growing, and as you're learning, those things will become bigger,
Yep.
in responsibility.
Yep.
And that's really good.
That's good. Awesome, babe. Really good. Okay, why don't we end this first inaugural test run of a Hey Dad podcast with me asking you a question? Okay.
Okay.
You ready? I'm going to make this up on the spot. What are things? Let's see, what makes me a really amazing dad? No, I'm kidding.
That's a great question for the first.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of material there to work with.
I feel
much.
like oftentimes for dads, like their children can make them like really good dads. You know what I mean?
I don't have a faintest clue what you're talking about.
Really? You don't?
Yeah, it's amazing how you flip that though. Yeah. You've raised me well. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't go that far, but
Yeah. What are how do I ask this?
Let me say this.
Okay.
We're honored to play a part in your continual growth as a parent.
In sanctification.
There it is.
Thank you.
Sanctification. There it is.
I couldn't be a parent without you.
There it is.
Yeah, exactly. How about this? What's one thing I could do better as a dad? Or like, what is there something you've always wished I would do better?
Spicy.
Okay, well, that's
I was
different.
happy. Yeah. Let's see.
You could think about it, and you could come back to the next episode
Yeah,
with
Ooh, that'd be
an
fun.
idea if you had.
2 questions. You said what something was twofold. Say it again.
Well, what could I do better?
Okay.
Or what's something you always wished I would do better as a parent? How about this? Why don't you think about it, and then we'll come back to the next episode
I don't have anything on the top of my head.
and hear what
Okay,
you have to
okay.
say.
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
I like
Sounds
it.
good to me.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll see you next episode.
Okay.
I love you guys.
Hey,
Me
Dad.
too.